Cruising.
First, I would like to thank everyone for coming this evening. Sorry for the delay. I am Antonio Monroe. I am the secretary of the Pi chapter of Pi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Today we're going to be having a panel discussion. The topic is called Pi Beta Sigma Presents Help Me Understand Police Use of Force and Civilian Interactions. As you see, we have officers here. They're going to give us some advice, answer some questions that we all have questions to. Well, let us get started. Our belief. We, the men of Phi Beta Sigma, would like to join the efforts in preventing events such as the ones that have occurred in Missouri from happening here in our own area. We also understand that the first step to helping the situation as a community is to understand the situation as a community. The survey. All right. Before I reached out to the law enforcement experts and Dr. Brown, I actually did my own research. I did a campus-wide survey. In this survey, I received 100% of my surveys back. I sent out 300, so that's great. It's hard to get people to return surveys. The survey was done campus-wide. I didn't just focus on one area. I wanted to get a good canvas of ideas and opinions. I covered the Student Center, the Capel Arena. I hit some dorms, SBE, and of course the Criminal Justice Building. I made sure only one person filled out one survey. There was no duplicates. Nobody did, okay, I'll do 5 of them for you. None of that happened. And no demographic information was taken. I didn't ask people for their race, their age, where they were from, or any of that. With that being said, let's get into what I found. The first question on the survey, well, the first response on the survey read as follows. Police officers take enough time to think about situations before they react to them. And the survey read, 64% of our FSU students disagreed, 10% strongly disagreed, 23% agreed, and 3% strongly agreed. And if you do have questions about these, you just wait to the end. That's when our experts are going to answer all the questions. They're going to give their feedback. So all questions could just wait till after the statistics part. Next, police officers point their guns when the situation does not call for it. 61% disagreed, 0% strongly disagreed, 6% strongly agreed, and 33% agreed. If officers are forced to draw their weapon, one shot should be the limit. (27% disagreed, 40% agreed, 0% strongly disagreed, and 33% strongly agreed. And this is out of 300 students. All officers will most likely react to the same situation in a similar way. (40% disagreed, strongly disagreed, 30% disagreed, 23% agreed, 7% strongly agreed. It is rare that officers use excessive force when handling a suspect. (20% strongly disagreed, 60% disagreed, 17% agreed, and 3% strongly agreed, which means 80% of 300 students think that police officers always are more than should be. They use force, unnecessary force. White officers treat minority suspects differently than white suspects. 30% agreed, 63% strongly agreed, 2% strongly disagreed, and 5% disagreed. Minority officers treat white suspects differently than minority suspects. 27% disagreed, 30% strongly disagreed, 13% agreed, and 30% strongly agreed. When asked, do you believe that it's possible for officers to make an arrest without race being an issue or factor? 60% said yes, 40% said no. If an unarmed suspect is being aggressive and not cooperating with an officer, which method should the officer then use to take control of the situation? 70% said the officer should use their taser, 16% said the officer should use hand-to-hand combat, 11% said other, 3% said the officer should use their gun. When dealing with a suspect that is armed with a weapon that is not a gun, should the officer shoot the suspect? 73% said no, 27% said yes. When asked, have you ever been at a scene where you witnessed an incident where officers were using unnecessary use of force? 87% said no, 13% said yes. And when asked, which of the following should police departments make officers focus more on during the academy or training? Please pick only one. 12% thought that they should focus more on how to deal with diversity. 23% said they should focus on how to control their temper. 27% said they should focus on how to interact with the victim. And 38% said they should focus on what is acceptable use of force. When asked, do you believe that police departments train officers on the issue of racial profiling? 97% said yes, 3% said no. Do you believe that female officers behave differently than male officers? 96% said yes, 4% said no. And last, there's a reason I put this question last. Do you think that suspects bring excessive force upon themselves? 63% said yes, 37% said no. And before we get into the next phase, I do want to show a video. Disclaimer, I do not own any rights to the video I'm about to show. The video does show some mild profanity, but the positive message in this clip outweighs any negativity. So with that being said,
Wow.
so much shade, you must have an iPhone.
People in the black community, myself, often worry that we might be a victim of police brutality. So, as a public service, the Chris Rock Show proudly presents this educational video. Have you ever been face to face with a police officer and wondered, is he about to kick my ass? Well, wonder no more. If you follow these easy tips, you'll be fine. First, obey the law. Laws were made for a reason. Think of them as hints. You've heard people say, man, I wouldn't do that shit if I was you. Well, here's some of that shit. Carjacking, armed robbery, arson, selling drugs, buying drugs, stabbing, shooting. You know, you probably won't get your ass kicked if you just use common sense. If you jump a subway turnstile, you might just get off with a warning from the police. But if you jump a turnstile carrying a loaded gun and smoking a joint, then maybe you need your ass kicked. We all know what happened to Rodney King, but Rodney wouldn't have gotten his ass kicked if he had just followed this simple tip. When you see flashing police lights in your mirror, stop immediately. Everybody knows, if the police have to come and get you, they're bringing an ass kicking with them. Here's a no-brainer. If you're listening to loud rap music, turn that shit off. Blasting "fuck the police" while you're getting pulled over by the police is just ignorant. When an officer approaches your car, be polite.
Is there a problem, officer?
And stay in your car with your hands on the wheel.
What the fuck you want, motherfucker?
Unless you want your ass kicked. Want to give a friend a ride? Not so fast. Your friend might be crazy. Now, before you let your friend in your car, ask them these questions. Do you have a gun? Do you have drugs? Do you have any warrants? And in case you do get pulled over by the cops,
License and registration, please.
remind your friend to do this one thing. Shut the fuck up.
Man, don't give him shit. What the fuck you want?
If you have to give a friend a ride, get a white friend. A white friend could be the difference between a ticket and a bullet in the ass. Here's a tip you should never forget. If your woman is mad at you, leave her at home. Because a mad woman will say anything.
He got weed! He got weed!
If your woman is mad at you, there's nothing she'd like to see more than you getting your ass kicked.
That's right! Kick his motherfucking ass! Take his weed too! He got weed! He got weed!
Now let's review. Obey the law. Use common sense. Stop immediately. Turn that shit off. Be polite. Shut the fuck up. Get a white friend. And last but not least, don't ride with a mad woman. If you follow these simple pointers, you probably won't get your ass kicked by the police.
Well, unfortunately, we have some serious technical difficulties, and the sound did not work, so we're going to move on. But pretty much the gist of the video was, you, as citizens, you should always avoid the need for an officer to come up to you. I doubt if an officer is going to come up to you just because you're walking down the street. But if you're walking down the street with a gun on your hip and a joint in your mouth, I mean, that's pretty idiotic and enough reason for them to come up to you. If the time you guys can come over there. All right, I'm going to introduce our panelists. Immediately to my left, we have Officer Blanco from the Fayetteville State Police Department. Next to him, we have Dr. Robert A. Brown from the Fayetteville State Criminal Justice Department, the man. To his immediate left, we have Lieutenant Ramirez from the Fayetteville Police Department. And immediately to his left, we have Sergeant Officer Cruz from the Sergeant Officer Cruz from the Fayetteville State Police Department. We're going to open the floor for questions, but I would actually like to ask Officer Cruz a good question before we get into it, because we've actually had this conversation. Officer Cruz, the survey mentioned that officers should only take one shot if they have to engage in why do you disagree with that?
No, first of all, Sergeant Cruz, how's everybody doing in here?
Good.
We up? We awake?
Yes,
Yeah, we tracking? We tracking?
We tracking.
Right, y'all not awake. But listen, I've been, real quick, I've been in law enforcement. I'm the youngest out this group right here, okay? Up here you have a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge. I'm the new generation officer. I do things a little differently, unorthodox, if you would. So I'm going to stand and I'm going to be direct with this man over here. He asked me, what, a month, 2 months ago, we was in a cafeteria, I'm sitting down eating my breakfast like I normally do. He came up to me and said, I have this question. Do you think it's fair, or do you think it's right that an officer should use no more than one shot or just take one shot? No, I believe that well, first of all, as officers, we're trained a certain way, okay? And depending on the person or the encounter that you're dealing with or the situation at hand, it's not to say, one shot is enough, I pray that I never have to use my weapon as long as I'm in law enforcement. I think that's everybody's goal, is to never draw their weapon, or not draw, but use their weapon unless you have to. But one shot, you can't really base it on one shot. Can you take down the elephant with one shot? Yeah, right. Can you take down the bear with one shot? So my answer to that was no, and I strongly believe that, as an officer, you should, if you do use a weapon, it's for a life or death situation. And, as long as you stop that imminent threat, you'll hear that a lot. You stop that threat, it's not to determine, it's not to say one shot is not enough. So, to answer the question, no, I don't think one shot is good enough, or just suffice.
Can we get the light back on? Sorry.
Excuse me? I want the light back on.
Switch to lights.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Next question for Lieutenant Ramirez. Which one would you say should be used over the other, and why, when it comes to using your stock gun or taser?
Say again the question?
Okay. So why do you think, like in the survey, a lot more people said that they should use the officers should use their taser over the gun? Why do you think more officers use their gun versus the taser?
Well, I don't believe more officers use their gun more than taser. Taser, it's our less lethal weapon of choice. Remember, less lethal, that's what a taser is. And at times, we have used it when the situation is lethal. In other words, a person has a knife or a bat coming at you, or is coming at you in a way that they'll probably, if they get their hands on you, they'll disarm you and use a gun against you. So those are scenarios that pretty much play out throughout every week, at least here in Fayetteville. But absolutely, we use our taser more because not every encounter is a deadly force encounter. Very few encounters actually deadly force, even though we do see hundreds of encounters that are aggressive. But yeah, absolutely, taser is number one when it comes to subduing somebody. It actually hurts less than the OC spray, and it's better than hitting somebody with an aspirin a couple times. That's my take on it.
Thank you. Dr. Brown.
Present.
I talked to you about this one as well. There was a question raised by a young lady. Do you, from your personal experience, do you believe that officers will react differently when they have a higher education, because officers really only need a high school diploma to become sworn officers? Do you believe officers having a bachelor's degree will make a difference?
No, and before I told you an answer of no, yes, I really want to say no, maybe. Some things that are really important for us to think about in this conversation. We're trying to have a conversation about policing in general. And what you have to understand is there are close to 18,000 different law enforcement agencies in this country. Oh, and there are roughly, last census that I'm aware of, 680,000 different law enforcement officers. So we're responding to these questions and trying to generalize to a profession with close to 18,000 different agencies and almost 700,000 different officers. So keep that in mind when you're processing what you're hearing. A college education generally makes a person, or it's believed to make a person more well-rounded, more thoughtful. Among the reasons why a college degree is not a requirement in American law enforcement, it's part historical. I gave you this response and I'll put it to the audience. Does a person need a college degree in order to write you a speeding ticket? Does it take a college degree in order to do many of the tasks that police officers are trained to do? Police officers go through a significant amount of training, specialized training, empowering them to do the job that they need to do. And that does not necessitate a college degree. As an educator, I'm going to tell you in general, yes, I would always like to see working professionals have a college degree because I think it elevates the field. Challenges? Okay, a college degree. A college degree in what? If one were to get a college degree in criminal justice and we were to say all law enforcement officers have to, for some reason, have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, well, someone going through a criminal justice program today would surely learn about community policing. They would definitely read books and probably sit through lectures about race relations and use of force and such because you can't get around that today. But does that mean that someone who's a psychology major shouldn't be allowed to become a police officer? They have the wrong degree? Policing is a lot of report writing. Does that mean if you have an English degree, you shouldn't be allowed to become a police officer? And I would say no. So it's not just about, even if we were to entertain a degree being important, the real conversation would then be a degree in what? And I bet you if you talk to police officers and if you talk to the officers on this panel, and they were to say between degrees that they have and officers that they know, you're going to hear degrees from all over the spectrum. I've literally known police officers who were biology, chem majors, and policing was their calling. So there are a lot of challenges and a lot of intricacies with a degree somehow being a fix for getting a certain kind of behavior out of officers. Lastly, do we as citizens want to pay for college-educated officers? And I dare say no, because there's this funny thing about people who earn college degrees. They kind of want to earn money, and more money than people who do not earn college degrees. So, are we as a society willing to pay officers more money by saying you have to have a college degree? So to answer that question, there are a lot of layers to it, both from the would it actually change behavior to what would be the implications of requiring all law enforcement agencies to have a minimum standard of a 4-year degree. Thank you.
Can I add something to that? He is correct. College degree, by all means, get your college education, number one. Will a college degree make you a police officer? Absolutely not. You can be a 4.0 GPA, straight 8 honor student. And I'm speaking from experience because I was a field training officer. I still am. They hit the road and they cannot handle it. It's a different world from having a college degree, going to classes every day, and going out there and dealing with some of these people out there. It's completely different. College education in some instances, some agencies will definitely give you more money. 2-year degree will give you Fayetteville State $1,500
apartment, 1,500.
for 2 years, and for 4 years, $2,500. Well, that's a big plus. Okay, it's also good for your resume. It will set you apart from one having a degree and one not having a degree. It's going to set you apart. So don't think that. I want to clarify. Having a degree, yes, it's a big plus. But having a degree and working the road is night and day. It's an experience that many people can make it, many people cannot make it because you need a lot of common sense. You're not book smart to be a police officer. Am I correct? Am I correct? But get your college education. Get it. Get it.
This next question is for the officers. 97% of the people who took my survey said that they believe that police departments train officers on the issue of racial profile. And they also, in the poll, they said they believe that 12% said that they believe that how to deal with diversity should be something that is taught in the academies. From your experience, was that something taught in the academies, and do you think that should be something that should be taught in the academies?
Absolutely. You can't finish the academy, any phase of it without even hearing and seeing or actually officially taking a test on those three subjects.
Now, just to piggyback, when I first started back in 2008 in Robson County, in a small town called Fairmont. And when I started my FTO, his name was Sergeant Roy Grant. And, you know, being a rookie just coming in, as far as diversity, it's taught at the academy, but, you know, when you first join, they tell you, hey, all that stuff you learn in the academy, throw it out the window. You're about to learn how to be the police. And that was my impression. And he was a tad bit racist. He was. But you as a person, you either gonna let it affect you or make you a better person. And I took his flaw and I made it my strength. Because, you know, I mean, I don't discriminate in race or anything like that. Everybody to me is the same. We all bleed blood, right? Nobody here bleeds gold or platinum or anything, right? So we're all the same. So, you know, a field training officer, I saw that. But, you know, it's taught, and it's you as a person. Are you gonna take it in and be like, okay, well, this is what I have to do? Or are you gonna take it in and say, this is not what I'm gonna do, you know, I'm gonna be better than this? So a lot of it falls back on the person too. You know, yes, the department plays a big responsibility, and at the end of the day, the department is liable. But you as a person makes that, you know, you make that decision. You know, hey, am I gonna be like Roy Grant, or am I gonna be like Cruz? So,
We have a question right here.
Yes, sir. This question is directed to Sergeant Cruz. You stated that against the officer that you were under, that was really that was really training you was a bit racist. Can you give us some examples, or maybe some situations of how he was racist?
well, okay, racial profiling, I give you a lot. Because, you know, things like that just stand out of your mind. I mean, you no matter how much you try to forget it, you know, you always go back to where you started. And being at Fairmont was my baby. Everything that I've done there, I took it in. Traffic stops, for instance, just something small as a traffic stop. Fairmont is about 98% black.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the population there. You got about, well, 93, 2% Indian, 1% white, something like that. He was a white officer. A lot of traffic stops that he did, you know, if they were a person of color, there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You get some kind of citation, you get a ticket. I already knew it. Before he even stopped the car, I look at him black, in my head, he's gonna give me a ticket. But as soon as he ran into, you know, a Lumbee, which is the Indians down there, or a Caucasian white person, verbal warning, slow down, take it easy, have a good one. You know, and I took that. House calls. I'm the rookie, so he would send me into, you know, the black house. You know, hey, go in there and handle that while he sits in the car. But let it be somebody, you know, Caucasian, he'll go in there with me. And I pay attention to stuff like that. So those were just few examples that just showed me his true colors.
Anyone else have a question?
This is more for Officer Cruz, but if any of y'all can answer. I read that statistically, black officers, when dealing with or stopping someone black, actually have a higher chance of arresting them than the white officers do. So I wanted to know how y'all felt about that and why that is.
I'll go ahead and bow out on that one. I can answer some, but not all, so I'm gonna leave that to the rest of the panel.
I think you probably read something by Brown or Boyd, possibly.
I think that's what
This gets into the issue of diversity in policing. A big problem we have in policing policing, criminal justice, and our society at large. We do a bad job of understanding racism and issues of race and issues of discrimination versus disparity and such. I use the expression, it's no longer our grandparents' racism. we have this way of looking at racial issues as being, number one, a black and white dichotomy. When we talk about race and when we look at race and criminal justice, we tend to talk almost exclusively about black versus white. We're slowly but surely recognizing ethnicity, we're recognizing that Latinos, Hispanics, that can be a factor. And that's something in a way that in the world of policing, if the racial profiling phenomenon and movement, legislation to try to deal with racial profiling, all the research, the statistics that agencies are required to collect about race and traffic stops, if there's at least one good thing that's come out of that, it's that we're recognizing that it's no longer about just black versus white. We're recognizing that difference, people who are minorities, whatever that might be, wherever you are regionally, that these are the issues we should be paying attention to. How does the majority potentially treat the minority? And the minority is not always a group that's black. Another problem that we have is that we think pretty simplistically about race relations. We think that whenever we're talking about race or discrimination, that it's what whites do to blacks. We rarely talk about what blacks per se could do to whites, or what blacks could do to other blacks. And that gets into another problem. We think that we don't recognize intra-racism. People make the faulty assumption that a black officer could not possibly discriminate against a black citizen. And a white officer could not discriminate against a white citizen. So the first thing we need to do is we, particularly in a college environment, we need to, and professionals, we need to up our thinking and understanding that bias is bias. There's no such thing as reverse discrimination. If you use that term, get rid of it. It's just discrimination. And it's possible for people to be discriminated against for a bunch of different reasons, including same-race discrimination. There is research out there, and to answer your question specifically, there is research out there that suggests, or the findings suggest, that black citizens may receive as harsh or as biased treatment, and maybe even more biased treatment from black officers. The reasons behind that, there are a couple of different theories, that when black officers are harsh or harsher on minority citizens, that it's because they're doing it out of sense of protecting minority communities. That when black officers are more coercive, more likely to use force, more likely to write a ticket, more likely to use their power, that they're not doing it from a perspective of punishing the black suspect, that they're doing it out of a sense of protecting the black victim or protecting the black community. That race is still a factor and that the suspect is experiencing a negative outcome is important, but understanding the reason for the potentially biased treatment is also important. Because you could have a white officer who says, hey, I'm harsher on black suspects because I'm trying to protect this community too. We wouldn't view that as legitimate protection, yet whenever I share with people the concept of black officers saying, hey, I'm cracking down on young black male offenders, that's somehow being right, like the concept of noble cause corruption. Me doing it for this reason's okay, but a white officer doing it and it's the same outcome, they can't be doing it for a positive reason. And this all stems back to how we think about race. And doing it too simplistically results in a bad outcome is a bad outcome. Using a factor illegitimately is still using a factor illegitimately.
And then I'll add to that, if I may, the third factor, you said two factors. The third factor that I see, the unfortunate things that I see is that my fellow brothers in blue or white now, or shirts in gray or whatever, black officers get treated pretty rough by the black population. So on the encounter, sometimes some officers are not as astute or trained or well-versed to actually take that badgering. I mean, they get called some serious, crazy words and names by their fellow race on the scene, and that sort of sometimes pushes them to the edge of, forget it, I'm taking you to jail. So that increases the numbers of black officers having pretty much zero tolerance. Some officers are not able to actually pretty much tune that out, and you couldn't blame them, because I hear it sometimes. They get called everything from the bottom up, you know, and I'm like, wow. You know, and the white officer doesn't get called those things, you know, sometimes. But they really get treated really bad. I mean, I can just imagine the blood pressure, you know, sometimes when you assign a black officer to go and police a black community, now he or she's in that environment where like, oh, you know, why am I in here? You You see, and that's, when they're in there, then, it's not that they gotta prove themselves to anybody, but they do have that window. I know you just talk to me in any which way, you know, and pump me out and put me in a situation where the next individual thinks that he can just come up here and slap me and take my gun from me. So you get that situation where it becomes difficult for that minority officer.
Good evening. I'm Lieutenant Whitaker. I was a counterpart of Ramirez. I would tell you this is a product of the inner city of Washington, D.C., product of Norfolk State University, HBCU. Doing the right thing, making the decision, and doing this, United States Army. I would tell you this, as far as the minority community, I love the mess out of working and policing the minority community, because it's family. FSU is my family, Merck is my family, that is my area. I used to have Bunce Road and some of the other lower income neighborhoods others. I enjoy it. Basically what they say is, if I have a relationship with you and you and you, you're gonna respect me, I'm gonna respect you. Certain things you're not gonna do. But a lot of times what officers do, minority officers, everybody got a cousin, Ray and Pookie, you don't want to come to the party. You don't want them to come to that cookout. When you pull over Ray and Pookie, I'm embarrassed for Ray and Pookie because you're embarrassing me. Because you should represent, hold it up better than that. Stumbling out of the vehicle, being disrespectful and belligerent, and calling me Uncle Tom, a sellout, working for the man, when I got a job and providing for my family. But yet you falling out with the blunt and the baggie hitting the ground, but yet I'm wrong, you're going to take a road trip. You can have that. You understand that's a mentality, so you bring it on yourselves. And so you get some officers, the minority officers, not going to want to deal with that. You know, I don't want to deal with the ignorance that you're embarrassing me because I'm trying to abstain, to counteract them stereotypes that someone has given you. You're lazy, you're on welfare, you this and you're that. And then I pull somebody over. So a lot of times, that's what happens, and the minority can happen. And based upon your research and Dr. Brown's research, I can speak from my aspect. But I think one of the things while we're in here, I think one of the best things in the world to do is to deal with those things. We all watch, you all seen reruns. I don't think, Blanco may have seen the first run of Sanford and Son back in the day. But anybody seen the rerun of Sanford and Son when you had the Hoppy and Smitty and the cops that came in? Relationship buildings. Relationship building. It's all about relationship building. This is why we're here. On the campus, you guys get everything. Your belief system is this. This is your belief system. I got a 20-year-old who's a junior here at FSU. Daddy, what's the weather? I don't know. It's right now. But what y'all do? Y'all strolling Insta all day. Got to see the latest tweet. I got to see what whomever on the Housewives or this one is done. Your worst enemy. And then we step on it. My brethren right there, we step on it. And everybody blasts on national news. Look what the police done. And your minds are shaped off of those things instead of what you experience. And so my job here is to let you know that we are human, but we err. We err a lot. But we're trying to bridge that gap. But a lot of bringing it home as far as minority, that question is, some people look at it in a different way, that we should be doing better. And we don't have a dialogue that we should. And when we don't have a dialogue, we say things we shouldn't say. In my opinion, we have brethren in the law enforcement should be calling the police. In other words, shouldn't even be a police officer. I get that. You got students that you sit beside every day that you should be here at the university. Shit, freshman, look over your shoulder, sophomore year, oh, he just partied all the time. Who are back at the home on the street or whatever he should have been doing anyway. But that's one thing. I'll get off my soapbox. Appreciate it.
Let me respond to this one just quickly because I think this is really important. None of the officers here are here on a recruiting mission, but I am. The things that you're hearing about, the tensions regarding being a law enforcement officer and having to potentially be policing minority communities and dealing with individuals in your family, if any of you are considering a job working in criminal justice, at any point, you're going to potentially deal with people calling you, questioning whether you're down, questioning whether you're a sellout, potentially having to deal with someone who's a friend, family member, neighbor. So if you choose a path of working in the justice system, it's not just about being a police officer. If you work in the justice system, you are potentially going to have to deal with that cousin, that family member, that neighbor, people that you went to high school with who didn't follow your path or anything close to it. And you gotta let that go. I deal with too many students who come to me trying to get a job or wanting to do something in the justice system, and the barrier is a mental one and a self-imposed one. Well, I'd like to be this, but I'm afraid I might have to arrest my family member one day. You need to get over that, because first of all, you need a job. I could talk to you about how you should get over it, and the ethics, morality, the social consequences, et cetera, but get a job. Am I on tape? Get a job. And stop saying to yourself, because of where you're from or in your hometown, you couldn't work there as a police officer when you could get a job doing that, but you're sitting there forever saying, well, maybe I could be a probation officer. Because, well, it'll take a lot for one of my family members to get to that point. So no matter what you're doing in the justice system, you're going to have to deal with your blood, and you're going to have to deal with your neighborhood. So get over it.
How many thinking about going into law enforcement police officer? Just raise your hand. Nobody?
Criminal justice, yeah.
When you become a police officer, you lose friends, you lose close family, because they don't want to be next to you. Why? Number one reason, they're dirty. I'll tell it to you straight up like it is. You're gonna lose your friends. You can't hang out with them anymore because they're doing dirty stuff. And it's your job on the line. And you wanna hang out with your buddy, you wanna lose your job, that's on you. But you're gonna lose a lot of friends, a lot of people are gonna be like dishing you, okay?
This is a big world. You gotta get a job where you live. Get a job in Raleigh. Get a job in Atlanta. Get a job in Miami. You don't confine yourself. Don't limit yourself. My relatives are here. Who cares? Like Doc said, need a job. And you know, enjoy the ride. 18 years of doing this in 20 years and 20 plus and some years. Gosh, it's more. This job is, listen, it's more positive than negative what we do. Only time y'all see the bad stuff is when it hit the news, but we do a lot of great things, and a lot of great things happen. Unfortunately, we have, in Washington, D.C., the crime section is our local paper. That's the crime section. Can't put it all on the news. Here, we got Channel 11 downtown, we got our REL, Channel 5 representatives. So anytime we say, we sneeze, somebody said, God bless you from the media, what you got for me, and we give it to them. So perception is reality. A lot of times we print more than what it appears. So that's what happens. But it's more good than bad. Don't let it fool you. I would not live here for 18 years if it's a bad place to live. I mean, you guys are 4 years plus and you live all your lives. Don't let nobody bad talk where you live, and don't bad talk where you live. And so that's an important thing to understand. It's more good than bad. And most of us in here have never been a victim of a crime. We may have hurt someone who have. A lot of times we put ourselves, and don't put yourself in a situation that you're going to be in that number. Blanco is old school. That's old school, sergeant major, military background, and you guys hear that. But you need that. That man is talking for a reason. You're going to lose friends because he's hard-nosed. I can't, I know I used to smoke weed, not me per se. But here's the thing, you can be an officer, but if you got friends. And he said he had, but that would not stop you from being a police officer. I would tell you this, if you smoked weed yesterday, you cannot be a police officer tomorrow, but that was not going to discriminate, that's not going to discriminate you or stop you, because this is an imperfect society, imperfect career. But the fact is, you're going to lose friends because they want to do things that they used to do that you can't do anymore, or you grew up and separated from. That's real.
My comment is to all of you guys, really, towards good relationships with people in the community and people, you know, the area that they are in. My question is, what in you guys' agencies, how do you guys monitor that? What is it that you guys do to see if those officers are doing that, and if they are doing a good job? That, I mean, if we be honest, even here at Fayetteville State, you have the group of officers that everybody like, respect, such as Cruz, and then you have some officers that everybody be like, he better not say nothing to me. If he say something to me, we gonna catch him by himself and we gonna jump him. You follow what I'm saying? So my question is, in you guys' agencies, how do you guys monitor that? What is it that you guys, or do you guys really even enforce anything, for those officers to build that relationship? Because I know for the student body here, I have literally seen the difference. If Cruz say, hey, y'all chill out for a minute, people be like, all right, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And they'll chill out. And I done see some officers be like, yo, y'all chill out. And then they buck at the officer like, you ain't talking to me. So, yeah, that's my question for you guys.
Well, here for Fayetteville State, you guys are credit. The chief now, Andrew Johnson, he's real big on community policing. He pushes it. And it's not so much as he monitors it, it's more what you guys say. He hears it. When an officer interacts, hey Mookie, how you doing? You got some candy? No? But Mookie goes and says something to somebody else, Officer Cruz is cool, people talk. So the chief knows, especially for here, is you guys as a student, you guys have the voice. We're here at your pleasure. We're here to make sure you guys are safe, and we work for you guys here at the university. So you guys have to voice your opinion. Some people just don't say anything. And that's it doesn't go up the chain, because chief can't be everywhere at one time, I can't be everywhere at one time, but you guys are here, you guys live here, you guys stay here, all you gotta do is voice your opinion. You know how many times I hear people say, well, this officer, this and this and this. First thing I say, tell anybody? No. Well, that's where it stops, right there. You have to dig, you have to go into it, you have to voice your opinion, you have to say this, say that. But you guys are our stars. Hey, I heard Cruz, you did this, over here, good job. Appreciate it, Chief. Hey, Cruz, I heard you did this over there, good job. You know what I'm saying? I get it from you guys. I don't go to the chief and tell him anything. You guys are my boys. So as long as you guys keep doing what you're doing, making me look good, I'll be here for a while. Question for me, or?
Question, period.
Okay, well, let me sit down on that. So that's why I'll finish down here for us.
But he said something, I think that is the most difficult question, that's the most difficult assignment for Chief Metlock, my chief, to make officers do.
Or a supervisor.
Or a supervisor, to get out and talk to the citizens and not us against them. You guys don't understand, it is difficult for that 24-year-old white guy from the farm of Robson County, Sampson County, heard about the murder, and it's hard for him not to have those. I heard how bad the murder was, and you never experienced it for yourself. I heard that because FSU was 90% African American, they'd become troublemakers, they're difficult. I heard, none of them experienced it, none of them experienced the love of anything. But I would tell you this, Chief Metlock understands that. He's a white pepperhead guy, understands community relations building. And the most hard, difficult thing in the world is to have to also get out that dog on a tin-can vehicle with them 4 tires on to say, how you doing, young lady? What are you talking to me for? It might scare you half to death, but they do it because we don't do it enough. My job and Ramirez's job is, we have the white shirts now because the majority department is blue shirts, but we have the white shirts. Our role is we have a piece of land that we're responsible for. Part of that is relationship building. And any guys you see me on, you may see my vehicle on Murchison Road, I may be at the 2020 Suburban Market, whatever you want to call it, talking to the crackhead, drug dealer, whatever. They are a citizen. They help people too. That's how you do it. You got to get out. You got to interact. Because what Cruz is doing is what he needs. You might lose him because I'm going to try to recruit him. Because he's doing what your image of respect is. Cruz says, stop. The first thing you're going to say, if you got a friend that comes from another university and they buck on him, you're going to say, stop. No, Cruz is cool. Whatever you're going to say, you're going to tell them. The instant they're going to respect. Not because of interaction. I go on the Merc, I can take anybody on the Merc, ins and out. Hey, Whitaker, I don't know half them people on the Merc, but most of them know me. That's a good thing. It's all about respect, and it helps you do your job. Do I have to understand that people will do things? Yeah, I'm not naive. I know where I came from. But what we need more insight and dialogue. And my thing is, we don't have enough of that. I enjoy. You'll see me on a parade, you'll see me across the street, you'll see me, I'm part of the community. And a lot of officers don't understand that they are. But I can take these uniforms off of them and sit them, and they got a kid at the house. That's the same one that was cussing you out? That's the same one? You can't let the job define who you are. A lot of officers do. And unfortunate, that's a bad thing. That we let this uniform define how we act and how we carry ourselves, instead of that a character guide.
So as you being a supervisor, is there anything that you guys have in place, or what do you guys do to help your officers that are in the
Can I answer
field
that?
building on those
Go ahead.
relationships?
Let me answer that for you. For most of you, I've only been here 2 months. But I've worked with Fayetteville PD, Fayetteville Finance for 11 years. I've been in law enforcement 19 years. Started in 95, I worked prison system. Worst job I ever had. That's why I really realized racism exists in this country. Before that, I was in the military, retired military. I went overseas in Iraq, came back after 2.5 years. I went back in Iraq, made a little money, came back, went to Hope County, went to the sheriff's office. So I've been in 4 different agencies, so I'm a little bit well-rounded. This is how me as a supervisor, I deal with my guys. I got Williams and Manning. You all know Charles, big
Black
torso, dog looking guy, big football player. You know what I'm talking about, okay? He's your brother. He's your brother, right?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have to deal with him because me and Charles, he was in favor too. But what I insist on them is they make contact with each and every one of you. Every single day. The problem we have in all agencies, if you get a 21-year-old straight out of, I don't care if he's college or straight out of high school, straight out of BLET, they put that badge on, you can't tell me nothing. I'm the man. You can't tell them they have that attitude. That's called the rookie-itis attitude. That's wrong. And it's as up to our supervisors to tell them, no, you're not the man. You are the man, but you treat everybody with respect. You treat them like you want to be respected. And that's what I tell Manning and Charles. I don't even have to tell them because we're already doing it. I say hello to anybody and everybody. You see me I call it the mess hall, the cafeteria. I'll stand there, I'll say hello to I'll help anybody with anything. I'm always walking around saying, hey, how you doing? Chief Johnson took a new guy here. I'm not gonna mention the name. He said, and he was just standing there. Said, you know that person's name sitting there? He said, no. He took him, introduced everybody in that cafeteria that morning. And all it takes is just relation, talking to people. I'm not better than any one of you. Just like you're not better than me. Just because I have this, and I'm a supervisor and I'm a police officer, it doesn't give me the right to treat people and talk to people like they're garbage. No. And I worked Zone 3. This used to be Zone 3, 11 years. I know the Merck. I know Jasper Street. I know Hillsborough Street. I was there when that officer got shot and killed. So I know this area. I know what goes on. It still does not give me the right to talk to people, and especially you students, because I'm here for you. My job is to protect you, make sure that each and every one of you is safe. My job for my guys is the same thing. So to answer your question, we talk to our guys, we instill, we train them. It's a matter of talking to them, to train them. Hey, talk to this guy. Like he's your brother, your sister, your mother, your father. If it doesn't happen and I find out about it, I'll pull him aside. What happened with that student? Most of the time it's not what the student said, or maybe he did make a mistake. The officer made a mistake. Then we'll fix that problem. It's called on-the-spot correction. But it all comes down to your question, we have to relate with you guys. Okay? If you've got that new officer, we got a couple of new officers, and I'm not downing them. I don't want to be a little timid, and the perception of the students, oh, he's stuck up. Oh, he's a racist. Maybe that's not the case. Sometimes it's just take, hey, how you doing, officer? How you doing? Hey, can I ask you a question? How you doing? You having a good day? Just like we do with you guys. You guys have bad days, we have bad days. But it's all interactive. And by the way, I graduated from here. Me and my daughter, we walked and graduated the same day. 2005. That's right. So, to give you a little bit of background, I'm not new to FSU, but I'm new to here, to the college. We're here for you guys, okay? So I want you to feel safe. If you got any issues, you come to us. Me, Cruz. Have you noticed something? Minorities. Have you noticed that? That's the first thing I said when I came in here. What the other one? No. And don't take it the wrong way. Don't take it the wrong way. You're off. You're off, okay? Okay, I'm not sitting up, but I'm just saying, this is our squad here. I got two blacks. I got Manning and Charles working with me, but.
I think it,
Want to add to that?
Yeah, I want you to answer that.
To the accountability, absolutely. We definitely, at least at our level, we definitely hold our officers accountable for that. But let me give you another angle, one that you haven't heard yet, one that's even more dear to myself. You know, in the 21 years, I'm considered your more aggressive officer, the one that was out there in specialized units constantly, you know, searching for people, arresting people, getting them out, getting search warrants. I'm that guy up here. I'm the guy that definitely, you know, was involved in a lot of that. And so was Bronco. Now, for the most part, I'll give you something better. When I would interview for my special units or my individuals, I wouldn't hire an officer that didn't have community relations down pat. Has to be. He or she better know everybody in the area of assignment. Because it's important, because when somebody gets hurt or killed, or somebody's missing, or somebody needs to be found, who better than the person that has phenomenal community relations to be able to talk to those people? So I see it at the level of actually providing a wholesome police service, a true police service to my community by knowing people. It ain't just officer friendly. I'll tell you the truth, some stuff that he doesn't hear ain't gonna work in the street out there. Because those people are there for 40 years, not 4 years. Those people are ingrained in some neighborhoods. This town doesn't really have it because it's very transient, but areas of DC or New York City, you ain't going into a neighborhood and asking them questions. Now, if you have a good beat officer that has a good community relations, they can get in there and get that information. Because if your little sister gets shot, or your mother, you follow your brother, your sister, somebody close to you, you want an officer to be able to get those answers pretty quick. These rational shootings that we're having with young people, you know how difficult it is for me, 47 years old, to get into a 16-year-old's head and try to convince them to tell me what happened. It ain't happening that quick. You know, so we do need officers that can actually go in those communities and talk to people. And I'm telling you now from a different angle, the tactical, professional angle to solve the crime, to help the citizen. You know, community relations, you better. In our department, for sure, it's the forefront. Tomorrow you're going to hear some announcements about that. You know, from a higher level, a federal level, that's actually using FAVO as actually an example of how we do it right when it comes to community relations. But nobody else around is doing it. Well, they're doing it, but I mean, we really are being picked from the region as to how we're doing it right. Now, you know, because I said I got to leave here soon, I'm going to tell you, how can we avoid a Ferguson? Like the doctor said, you individuals need to become involved in this profession. Because honestly, you know, if you're from here and you came from here, if a Ferguson starts to erupt, only you can slow that down by being informed and knowing what it is that we're doing and really seeing where it comes from the heart. Of course, there's police officers out there that don't jive with your perception. But if you don't start getting into that profession and getting involved, you don't have to be the police. You could be the counselor, you could be the attorney, you could be the defense, you could whatever. But get in that profession, one way or the other. Even as an academic, that's okay. But the only voice out there that's going to be heard is yours. It ain't going to be ours. At the end of the day, we're the ones that are going to be holding the line with our gear, pushing back the line. Now, within that group of people, thousands, outnumbering our hundreds, come on, it ain't about that. If they hear you say you, and you, that's a voice. So it's my job to make sure that my officers are gathering those voices every day. Every day. Who's involved? Who do you know? I don't know, LT. I don't know. How do we account for it? The yearly evaluations. They get negative results under evaluations. That's actually a criteria when we evaluate them every year. Community relations, super big criteria. 2 criteria actually in the evaluation. So we do account for that.
But I would tell you this: one of the most difficult things in the world, though, is to turn a big ship. You can turn a big ship, try to turn a big ship into rudder is small. Eventually, it's going to turn. what the department's going through now is trying to let them understand you have to get back to the old-fashioned way of doing things, getting out, interacting. We have programs in place now to do those things, but you gotta reshape some of those young minds or the older minds who don't like this way, or it's different than what I've been doing. I wanna write tickets. I wanna get on the boulevard and write everybody tickets. No, now you're telling me I gotta get out of Burger King, I gotta get out of Taco Bell, I gotta get out of this location, get out with the managers. Now you're telling me I gotta do, yes. It's hard to tell somebody to get out of your skill set. You're wide receiver and say, go play deep back. You're a basketball player, go do something out of your skill set, go play tennis. And you're gonna look just as goofy and clumsy and with a racket in your hand and give you a basketball and football, you look so good. The exact same thing is going on now. So we're taking the ball out of your comfort zone and having officers do something different. But it's so difficult. We're doing it under Chief Matlock and directing the officers. You will bring something back that you are connecting with the citizens. But one thing that there's some other things we're going to do. Chief Matlock has something. But other things it's something that I can share with you guys because nobody's going to steal it. But talk to Lieutenant Ramirez. Has anybody ever seen a police roll call of what we do when we come to work? Would it be interesting if you came in Walmart and there was like 6, 7, 8, 9 officers in a circle and said, come on over. And they announced the federal police department is giving a briefing before they go to work, and the citizens will come in and listen to what we say. See, that's all about, it's no secrets. It's no secrets what we do, but it's great to know. Great to know, say, hey guys, Ms. Smith was complaining about drug activity over there. Hey, I need you to go check this out. Hey, I need you to go do this. What else you heard? Hey, that's what they do. Ain't nothing talk about this. Oh, by the way, folks, we're gonna do a test. We're gonna have our tasers. We're gonna do a taser test. Do not be alarmed. There's a infrared red lights going through on the ceiling. All the tasers go off. Education. Those are some things that we want to do with the public because, let's face it, you only see us from afar. We need to see you from close and say, hey, that's Whitaker. That's that officer. Something happened. Chief Matlock, before we ride, tell me what happened before we lose our minds on FSU campus because somebody was hurt. No, let's get up a Cruz, let's get up a Blanco, and those kind of things. So we're working on that, but it's hard to turn that ship, but we're turning.
Yeah, I just have, so if an officer already had a problem with somebody, would he report that to other officers so they would discriminate against that person? Or does that officer just kind of keep it to himself?
It don't work that way.
How about wording that as safety? You see, you know,
Yeah.
you cannot always have that negative stance. You know, we demand our officers not to have a negative stance. So how we're trying to communicate, if we're educating the public is, how about having that stance a little different? How about, will you tell other officers to better handle that individual, to know how to handle an individual? We do, oh yeah, absolutely. The minute that, let's say for example, if Officer Blanco gets out with Ramirez and Ramirez was a handful for him, it is his duty to let everybody know, hey, you know, he's going through something tonight, you know, whenever you get out with him, you know, approach him with this, don't mention this. That's very professional, you know? Not, hey, if you see him tonight, that's not what it's about. We don't even dare even go there. You know, it's about keeping professional, hey, to better give that civilian that service, this is what he's going through. Don't mention his mama tonight, don't mention his wife tonight, don't mention his daughter tonight. You know, yeah, we do have a conversation, but it's definitely not to profile him or to single him out or harass him. It's definitely, you know, to provide a better service for him.
When you were saying an officer has a problem with somebody, elaborate a little more on that.
Alright. I had an officer pull me over about 3 times. Well, I had an officer pull me over one day, and he had thought something was in my car, I guess, or he had a suspicion that something was in my car, and then he checked my car out, nothing was in there. I already knew it was. I tried to tell him from the window, still, you know, kept going on about it. So about 2 days later, get pulled over by the same officer. About a week later, get pulled over by 2 more officers who are in the same department. And it just seems like they would keep pulling me over for this, like, random stuff. Oh, your registration, something's wrong with your registration. Oh, well, we bring the registration and nothing wrong. So we might as well just, you know, check around just to make sure ain't nothing wrong. Even though they would, you feel what I'm saying? Does that kind of make sense?
This didn't happen.
No, it happened here.
Where?
It happened here.
No, on the
FSU
campus.
board.
Like, I got pulled over by the same officer like 3 times in about 2 weeks.
Just come talk to me. I'll take care of that, okay?
You see, understand this. There's power when you express yourself. Don't hold on to it. If you've got fellas though, he done you wrong. Ramirez got cards and most of them got cards. We can't go for that. I cannot go for somebody who disrespect you or do something wrong. We can't do that. We can't do that. You guys realize more officers get fired from federal police department for doing, for lying and other things and all this stuff. We're not perfect. We go to the house. So I commend you. Please speak.
I don't go for that. I don't go for that. I'm business. When I come to work, I'm business. I don't tolerate that. Come see me. Come talk to me. I'll take it. You won't have any more issues. You shouldn't have. That's not, I don't play that. No, they don't play
Here's the thing that you need to understand and you need to spread after tonight. You are a sleeping giant. The minority community and in most jurisdictions are sleeping giants. When I talk to you and when everyone in this panel, we're talking to you about being engaged, it's more than being engaged and saying, hey, become a police officer or get a job in the system. It's about being engaged citizens. You want to know why police departments don't have the performance metrics of, gee, how many people did you interact with positively today? They don't have it because citizens don't demand it. If you had a critical mass of citizens saying to a police department, it matters to us how well the officers interact with us, how well the officers assigned to our beat or to our neighborhood interact with us. If you developed a critical mass of that, you would see city council say, hey, we need to make this a clear, measurable objective in what the department is doing. We need to quantify it. And when you come to sessions like this, when you have resources available, everyone who's in attendance here, if you've got an issue or a thought or a concern, you have access to not just officers, but people in supervisory positions. Those of you who see me and I'm just that guy who has a red pen and gives you a grade, I'm the academic advisor to the Fayetteville Police Department. Several of the people who work for the FSU Police Department, I was on the assessment board to get them hired. The Department of Justice coming in to do all these things, they consult with me. You have, and people like me. You don't want to be a police officer? Don't be a police officer. Earn your degree, understand things. There are actual terms. There's knowledge behind some of the questions that you've asked and the things that we've been talking about. You want to talk about power? I'm just a guy with a PhD and I've never been a sworn officer and I never would be a sworn officer. I couldn't be. I shouldn't have a job because what I would do with a taser or some spray and a gun to people who disrespected me would be bad. And I know my limitations. But I decided to make a contribution to this criminal justice thing and to this law enforcement thing a different way. And I'm a product of an HBCU. I'm a product of Washington, D.C. I'm a product of an environment where I should not be where I am right now. I should not be in this panel. I should be in the audience throwing fireball questions like, why do all y'all do this and all of y'all do that? That was my birth, but that's not where I am. But you all have to decide what kind of accountability. As students and a part of student government, campus police should be the most responsive arm to you. As citizens wherever you live, the police department should be the most responsive arm. I challenge you. Are you going to actually come up and talk to Sergeant Blanco and say, hey, these are some of the problems that I'm seeing on campus, versus just say, nah, I'll deal with it another time. And are you going to do the same things with every person that you have access to? Because if you don't, then you're allowing the problems that exist to perpetuate. And that goes across the board. Use your voice.
I think something else, this is another conversation that me and Officer Cruz had. How many students on campus actually know what their rights are as citizens? Like Brother McLaurin was saying, the officers search his car. If an officer pulls you over and asks to search your car, you can say no. You can say no. So it's, part of the reason is make sure you know your rights as well. I mean, respectfully say no.
Y'all, it seems like y'all was going from the standpoint of, officers, of course, because you guys are officers. But when you're actually in that predicament and it's somebody, can I search your car? No. Okay, well, stay right here. what do you mean stay right here? If nothing's wrong, my registration is good, my license is good, my insurance is good, and you have no reason to actually check me, then why do I have to stay right here? Oh, stay right here so we can get this, K9 unit over to check your car or circle the car. Stay right here so I can get back up right fast.
Which is totally legal. I'm an ex-K9 officer. I'm telling you from a legal standpoint, as a K9, it is called an outer sniff of the vehicle, which is completely, it's been up to Supreme Court. It is illegal. It's legal. And you can't say no.
I think he's more
But as far as you saying no, no means no.
So once I say no, why can't I just leave?
Real quick,
Go ahead.
I know people have heard this, ignorance of the law is no excuse, right? Really know your laws, and if you feel as if you've been violated, there are ways to take care of that. Just don't get mad and leave it there and say, well, he violated me, and spread the word, and you know what, now, your image has been tainted, so you're gonna tell this guy, oh, these guys, this officer did this and did this, instead of addressing the problem, and there's a right way and a wrong way of doing it. A situation like that, you gotta stop, no reason, come see Blanco, see me, see a lieutenant, and address it, and it gets stopped right there. But if you never address it,
You should have addressed it the first time.
We will never know.
The first time that happened, because it's wrong.
But yeah, it's
But I'm only listening to your side of the version. I don't take sides.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? But if you, my advice, cooperate. If you have an issue afterwards, come make a complaint. That is your right. You can make a complaint. You know if you're right. You know if you're right and dirty or not. You know if you were justifiably being harassed or however you want to label it. But it has to be dealt with. That has to be dealt with. Come see me.
because if it happened to you, we don't know how many other people have went through the same thing. See what I'm saying? And that's bad on our department, because that's your image of Fayetteville State Police Department. You know what I'm saying? And you spread that, so we need to get rid of that problem, or we need to handle that problem. And it won't be handled until you say something. You gotta say something. I tell that to people every day. You gotta say something. You don't say nothing, you just let the problem go.
You don't have to, you say no unless we have our own cause. Don't get it confused. Okay? And that can be from me. And another thing, and I'm just throwing this at you so you guys know. If I look in your car, that's not a search. We understand? If I'm outside and I'm looking in your car like this, that is not a search. And if I see a marijuana seed, I'm going to look in your car. I have probable cause now. Everybody understand that if I'm looking in your car from the outside, that is not a search. Don't get it confused. Okay? All right? But if that happens to anybody else, they need to make a complaint. Okay? It has to be dealt with.
All right. Moving along, we're going to wrap it up shortly. Some other information that I wanted to do some research on was exactly because me personally, this is my personal opinion. Me personally, I don't think the war that we're seeing, like the whole Missouri incident, I don't think it's the people versus the law enforcement. I more so think it is the media as the puppeteers. What the media wants us to see what they want us to see. They paint pictures the way they want us to paint pictures. Another conversation I have with Bruce. Movies and stuff. Officers are always more typically the bad guys. It's all about how we portray. And I got this statistic. I put another slide up here. You got something about. I got this statistic from the FBI website. This is a 2013 statistic. Officers killed by suspect in 2013 was 27. And those, we didn't see those. We didn't hear about that on the media as much because that's not what the media wanted us to put out. The officer you see here is his name is Ivan Sangiato. He was in the New Jersey Police Department, and he was shot by an African American on a routine traffic stop. He walked up to the car, asked the guy for his license registration, the dude shot him. But we didn't hear about that on the news. And of course, the other guy we see is Mike Brown. Hopefully we're all familiar with the incident in Missouri is about. Victims killed by officers in 2013, 410. Now, before we react, of course, the media isn't gonna go into detail about that number, but that number is felonies. So out of that 410, those were 410 people that were committing felonies at the time. Those are people, excuse me? Allegedly creating felonies at the time. So that's example. That's an officer coming to a reported robbery, and a guy comes out waving the gun, and the officer shoots him. He was committing the felony. Then now, Mike Brown's case is not in those numbers, so we don't know exactly what the numbers are for people who were unjustifiably killed by officers. I don't know that number. That number I don't think is really tracked as far as I can get my research around, but that's just another statistic and some more research that I did up on myself. Do you guys have any other thing you want to add in closing?
What was that question again? Just the,
Which one?
this one.
This one. What do you mean?
It's more of a state.
Yeah, the statement you had,
What you already told the officers?
uh-huh.
Officers killed by suspects is 27, according to 2013.
Never mind. Hold it back.
Basically, statistics are two or more pieces of information put in a certain context. We don't talk about the percent of, when you think of how many officers out there and how many officers lose their lives in the line of duty, how many citizens there are out there, and how many are killed in a situation where the police officer used lethal force. We also do not keep good stats on how many interactions between police officers and citizens happen where nothing wrong, no questionable conduct, no malfeasance, nothing bad happens. So always be careful with statistics. They're pieces of information put in a certain context. Unfortunately, we do not have a national database or a requirement for use of force statistics. Conversation earlier about which gets used more, gun versus a taser. Most definitely a taser is used more often. And we have some data to back it up, but it's a more complicated picture because, again, there's no, unlike the Uniform Crime Report, which is also voluntary, we don't have a national requirement that every police department logs how many times a weapon or a taser was pointed or discharged or fired. So the media, as you put it, if one consumes the media a certain way, then one is only going to have a certain understanding about what's going on when it comes to police-citizen interactions, particularly these controversial things where someone loses their life or someone's hurt. So that's something to keep in mind. It's all about how we consume the media rather than the media necessarily reporting bad stuff. They'll throw out some facts, and yeah, they're facts, but if you don't appreciate how those facts play into other facts, you walk around all mad saying this and that happens or not.
But rest assured, locally, Fayetteville Police Department keeps track of all those numbers, 100%. How many times we point a gun, how many times we fired a gun, how many times we engage with a taser, how many times we even take out the taser at times. Because once you activate that taser, it programs and then it gets downloaded into a computer. So the only thing that a police officer can be just playing around games at home, tasing his kids or his wife, whatever, you know, it actually records that kind of stuff. So I'm sure you understand that. And like the LT said at the beginning, when you start shift every day, you're supposed to activate it and make sure it's working properly. You know, not too much, not too little, you know, that it's working just properly. So we in Fayetteville, we document every use of force, every pursuit, every interaction that's reported negatively. All that's documented and reported and is tracked. And year to date, from last year, we're way down compared to last year. In part because of the stuff like this, community involvement, educating each other pretty much.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. If there is nothing else, if you guys have a question for them, you can catch them as they're leaving. On behalf of the men of Phi Beta Sigma, we'd like to thank all of you guys for coming out. Thank you guys for giving us your time. Up here is a schedule of the remainder of Sigma Week. So if you would, just jot that down, listen to see something you're interested in. Other than that, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.